Hello and welcome to the Queentrell podcast. Queentrell, a woman who emphasizes a life of passion expressed through personal style, leisurely pastimes, charm, and a cultivation of life's pleasures. I am Sil Ammon, and I invite you to join me in exploring and savoring life's riches and the beauty that surrounds us. In the company of friends, we can laugh, discover, appreciate, and support each other. So I hope that you will join me, where I will talk about everything that makes up the rich and diverse fabric of a delightful life. Let's cultivate vibrant conversation together. Welcome. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a great week since the last time that we got together. I am so excited about being back on daylight saving time. We have light until like 6 or 6:30 now, which is super nice because I feel like I got my energy back. For some reason, this year, I was not able to adjust to the darkness. And I know that there's some legislation that is being talked about to stop doing this 1 hour mess with everybody's brain nonsense twice a year. I'm hoping that it does get passed because it's really a lot to adjust to. I like this extra time in the evening, but I've talked to people who are now driving to work in the dark in the morning and they're having trouble adjusting to that. So I hope that it does get taken seriously and we see some change. Okay, so I'm just going to go directly into my lists with Sofia episode. It's a randomized list of questions that I found online and decided to create our own list with it. And for some reason, it went super film heavy. So there's going to be a really long show notes section with all of these films and shows and whatnot that we talked about. And be sure to stay through to the end so that you can hear the bloopers. They're going to sound a little violent because we recorded this show in the office and got invaded by both of the cats who decided to go bonkers while they were in here. And we really can't shut the door because they do scratch at the door, and that's sometimes worse. And adding to the random noises that you'll hear on this episode are my squeaky chair that I need to replace really badly. You might hear the tortoise in his kiddie pool, which we put in the living room whenever it's too cold outside so that he can get his exercise, and he's very loud in there usually. And then you won't hear this until the bloopers, but I crashed eyeball first into a ledge, trying to get the cats to stop making so much noise. So that's all going to be in there. I thought that it was kind of funny, and hopefully you'll find it funny as well. I am fine. My eyeball can see just as well as it did before. But that's enough about the blooper section. Oh, and I almost forgot. I have a new warning. There is explicit content in this episode. Sophie and I, believe it or not, swear regularly, and some of it is in this episode. So you're probably going to hear an F-bomb right around the time where I'm talking about Lara Croft. There's about 4 or 5 swear words in here. So if you have sensitive ears, you have been warned. Otherwise, please enjoy this because it's a really fun episode. Okay, so we're doing another list with Sofia.
Hello.
Hey, Sophie. All right, we're going to get right to it. Now, this list, by the way, is just cultivated from a bunch of different lists online. It's not any specific one. I just kind of pulled questions off of all these different lists. So, the first one is, what would you like to be reincarnated as if you could come back?
For me, I feel like I would want to be a cat. Or some sort of creature that I could be taken care of by a human and loved, I wouldn't have to care about work or school or anything. I just want to lay down and, purr all day long.
Well, if you take a look at our cats, we have 2 cats, Echo and Cytheria. Cytheria is literally twice as heavy as Echo is. And they get into fights, and Cytheria can pounce. I mean, she's like a little sumo wrestler going across the back of the couch in this very menacing way. And she'll see Echo, and she'll like pounce off of the couch onto her. And it's like, oh my God, she's going to kill her. So I don't know that life as a cat is always going to be purring and being taken care of, although we do spoil our girls a whole lot.
Yeah. I would just want to, like, sit in the sun as a cat, you know? Like, that's so, like, that looks so fun. Like, just curled up in a ball, laying in the sunlight, you know?
I mean, what? They spend, like, 16 hours sleeping?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? 16 hours of sleep time.
It sounds nice.
I don't even understand, because Echo comes in at night, and she starts bumping my shoulder so that I can wrap my arms around her and she can go to sleep. It's like, you've been sleeping all day and now you're going to sleep all night, but they do get spoiled.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think I would want to be a cat or a bird. I mean, just the idea of watching Echo, because Echo's the leaper, which is why we tend to talk about her a little bit more, because she's just kind of like very active. Also, the reason why she's half the size of Scythe. And Scythe's just very pensive, thoughtful. Like, she really, really tries to figure humans out. She's a very intelligent cat. Echo is more like she just wants to have fun and be loved. But we have this bookcase that is probably like 8 feet tall. And then we have a smaller bookcase next to it that's waist height. And Echo gets on top of that little bookcase. And then, because the bigger bookcase is 8 feet high and the ceilings are about 9.5 or 10 feet, there's not a lot of space up at the top. And Echo will jump up on that little bookcase and sit and calculate. You can just see mathematical, algebraic equations going on behind those eyes. And she leaps in a single bound. I mean, I know this is what cats do, but
Yeah.
When you watch them, she leaps up there with just enough force and momentum and velocity to reach the top of the bookcase without banging her head on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that is so amazing to me. Like, you know, I wish I could do math like that. Like, you saw how long it took me to figure out, like, oh, is that 3 feet or 3.5, or is it 4 feet or 4.5? I don't know. It might be 15 feet, you know, which it's not. It's not that much. But I see her do that all the time. Just having that agility, I feel like that's a superpower that I want.
Mm-hmm.
I want the superpower, and being a mathematical genius and understanding my body mechanics so well that I could just spring up onto things. And that's almost like flying. So that's why I would choose the bird as the second thing. If it was like, well, you can be a cat or a bird, I would be like, okay, well, which one's going to live longer? Because, you know, like the bird's only going to live for 2 years. I'll be the bird first, and then I can come back and be the cat.
Yeah.
Just watching birds, too. They, like, flap, and boom, they're up in the air. And I think my favorite thing is when there's certain wind patterns going, and you see the crows, you see the hawks getting up there on the air currents, and...
Yeah, going in circles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be one of those two. It certainly wouldn't be a lobster. That was a weird movie. I don't know if anybody saw The Lobster, but...
I was just talking about it, actually.
It's one of those movies that you talk about, huh? What were you saying about it?
Oh, I was saying it was a good movie, but there's that scene with the dog in it that's, like, pretty graphic. And it's like, oh, I did not think this would be in here.
Yeah, we weren't expecting it. I think that was one of the things that they hid because a lot of people were not going to appreciate that scene. But it was also, that was his brother. You know, like he was mad at his brother. And I don't know. I'm not defending it. It was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm having some ethical issues with this. But it was pretty funny that people were, you know, showing up at this place, this compound that they could never escape. Mm-hmm. You can check in, but you can never check out type of place. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, if I don't find a love, I'll be a lobster. Yeah. And it's like, are you kidding?
Well, it's the whole thing where, like, lobsters mate for life.
Yeah. And I heard that lobsters have the potential of living forever. Mm-hmm. They just molt and then they renew their exoskeleton. And it takes a lot of energy each time that these moltings occur. But if a lobster is not caught and lives out its entire life, the only reason that it dies is because it's too tired and doesn't have the energy to molt again.
Yeah.
So I don't think that came up in the movie. I think it was the mating for life
because that's the whole point of like their society was that you had to be a couple. So he was like, well, if I can't find my other half here, like I'll find my other half as a lobster.
Right.
Yeah. Which is like kind of funny.
I know. It's just kind of like that quirky humor, kind of like Monty Python, kind of like dry, witty humor. And I think it was an English movie too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was English. And it is like a very like English humor vibe to it. I was gonna say that. I was like, wasn't he English? Like very like dry, but like quirky, funny.
Yeah. Director Yorgos Lanthimos. Wow, they only did that on a $4 million budget. That was pretty cool. Okay, so choose one person from history that you'd want on your team during a zombie apocalypse.
I feel like you could go with a very strong person to be an attacking person, but you could also go with like someone who's smart and intelligent and could lead people really well. You know? Mm-hmm. Like there's like, because both of those are very important.
Like a strategist?
Yes.
I'm almost feeling like this question should be expanded to include fictional characters as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I feel like people of history, it's kind of hard if you don't know everything about them. Mm-hmm. Like, because it's like, obviously you've heard their names, but if you don't dive in deeper to who they are, then you don't know. But fictional characters, you've seen them for at least 2 to 3 hours. It's like you know them better, and you can be like, oh, well, this person will be really good at doing this, and this person is good at doing that, you know?
But, you know, like I could say Annie Oakley, because she was a badass sharpshooter, and she was a badass, period, you know? Like, she wouldn't back down. So that would be my historical person. Fictionally, Lara Croft.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be Lara Croft because you just see when anything difficult comes up, anything dangerous, like she's not afraid of anything. Maybe even Hellboy. Although I think Lara Croft is more of a badass than Hellboy is. I mean, Hellboy spends his time trying to overcome his evil tendencies. And that's why he's so rough around the edges. And so that's incredibly commendable.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't back down from the Tooth Fairies. But also that was on purpose because he knew he was going to get media attention. And he knew that it was going to go out in an explosion that wasn't going to kill him.
Yeah. So, well, I feel like also you would need somebody who, if they did get bit, you could put them down. And I think it'd be very hard to kill Hellboy.
Like if Hellboy became
like if he somehow got bit, oh God, that would be terrible. Like absolutely terrible. You know? But it's like if Lara Croft got bit, you know, it wouldn't be as hard to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like she's human.
Yeah.
But something else, like you take a look at these two characters, because I also was thinking of Riddick.
Oh, yeah.
Who is just a super badass too. But when you take a look at Hellboy and you take a look at Riddick, they're lone wolves. The only reason...
they wouldn't want to help you.
They wouldn't. And the only reason that they're part of a team is because there's something there in the end for them.
Yeah.
They're getting something out. It's like they're going into these team environments out of necessity versus...
like community or want or... yeah.
Whereas Lara Croft, she has a fucking team. Like, she's just like... yep, you know what? I can do this alone. I can do it with a team. It doesn't matter to me. And I will do things that put me in grave danger to save my team members. I mean, I will go back for that person.
Yeah. On the same note, I would feel like I would want Harley Quinn from like the new movies. Mm-hmm. Because literally in Birds of Prey, they're on a team together. And I feel like she would beat the shit out of a zombie. Like, I feel like she would be like, what the fuck? Like, and just, like, kill them, Like,
where's my bat?
And she's, like, such a character that I feel like it would be also fun to have her even in, like, a like, critical moment in that. Like, just, like, walking around or getting supplies, I feel like she'd be very interesting just to talk to. But I also feel like she is capable of killing...
also quite a psycho.
Well, yeah.
I mean, but she would be interesting to have on the team. I think she would be cool. I'm literally struggling to find a male character in any of these movies that is not like, the only reason I'm letting you be part of the team is because we got to get to point B and then I need your palm print. And then when we get there, we're splitting ways. Like, every single male character is like that. And,
I mean, maybe, like, Sam and Dean from Supernatural. Because they do, like, team up with people. But, I mean, they kill demons, so I would assume that they'd be able to do it with...
they'd be able to kill zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the zombie apocalypse. I'm thinking back on... not World War Z. Zombieland.
Yeah, Zombieland. That's a good movie.
That is, that's such a brilliant movie. I mean, the comedic timing on it, the lines, the characters, the storyline is tight. That's a really good movie. And normally I don't like zombie movies.
World War Z was good, though.
World War Z was good. It was short. I think it was under 2 hours. Those are like some of the complaints that I have about films is I'll watch a film and I'll go, this is so bloated. They could have tightened this up and made it so much of a better film if they hadn't had this scene that really slowed it down, like the scenes that you notice that pull you out of the film.
And then you're like, oh, how long is this movie again? Like,
then you start thinking about other things that you have to do. You start thinking about, do I really want to even watch this film? Because it's like not really that good. This is time I'm never going to get back.
Yeah.
And then I watched World War Z and I was like, man, this is so good. But they tightened it
too much.
So much. They over-tightened it. It really could have used another 15 to 20 minutes because it was hard to relate to the characters. Mm-hmm. And it's been a really long time since I've seen it, but I think Brad Pitt's character loses his kids or something, like his kids die or something.
Yeah, there's he gets either like separated or something happens to like his wife and stuff, but it doesn't feel like sincere. It doesn't feel like emotional as it should have been.
Right. That sense of loss is not there because they tightened it so much that you didn't get to see who the person was.
Yeah, oh my god, I hate it when they do that, when they're like, oh my god, this is my best friend, and you're like, okay, well, show us how this person is your best friend and why it's so sad that you guys are going apart. Or this is my wife and kids. Okay, then show me, like, how much you love them, because seeing them for 2 minutes and then you going on your adventure doesn't make me feel sad in any way.
Right. They're so tropey. They just throw them in there, and
then they never mention them after. Like, they'll mention them one scene after, and then it's like, oh, at the end of the movie, like, oh my god, my wife and kids, and you're like, oh, I forgot about them.
Yeah, Or, they kill them off. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, I didn't even feel sad about that because this wasn't written, directed, or edited in a strong enough way to bring about the importance of these characters. And,
Well, wasn't Brad Pitt a stay-at-home dad, too, in that movie?
Yeah, he
and I'm like,
seem like it.
But it's also like, you're with your kids more often. Wouldn't you be heartbroken? It was so weird.
I mean, even Deadpool showed much more emotion.
I know. Yeah, it's so sad.
About the loss of
his girlfriend. Bro, that part was so sad. I didn't think they'd do that, and they did.
You're crying for Deadpool.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
Yeah. There's another one. Oh my god. He would just indiscriminately be killing the zombies. He'd be like, why is everybody running? Let's just kill them all.
Yeah.
And then we won't have to run,
Yeah, him and Harley Quinn. Be a good zombie fighting team.
That would be really good. And then Charlize Theron in the, what was that one?
The Five Underground, or no?
I don't think Charlize Theron was in Five Underground. That was a good one. I don't think...
No one in there, no.
You know what? Nobody in that. I wouldn't want a single person. That was a great movie. But I don't think any of them reach the level of me going, yeah, if I was being attacked by zombies and had to figure out how to strategize, like even the guys from Ocean's
11, 12, 13,
11,
15.
12, 13, 14, 15, 32, I don't even think any of those, but no, the Old Guard.
Oh.
Charlize Theron from the Old Guard.
Yeah.
I think pretty much every single person in there because they were fighting some serious crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really good at it.
Yeah.
And another one where it's a strong female lead. Mm-hmm. This is almost turning into
women would be better in the apocalypse than men.
I mean, honestly, another one where you have this strong female lead and she is the ultimate team player, and all of these ones with the male leads.
Yeah.
The guys are just I'm just letting you be here. But otherwise, I can conquer all of this shit on my own.
Yeah. Well, maybe Doctor Strange from Marvel. But he's all-powerful multiverse man. I feel like that's a little bit cheating because it's just we could just go to a different time and this would all be over.
It's zombies.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that kind of cheating.
Yeah.
I literally do not want to be in the same universe that a zombie could possibly exist.
That's true. He could just take us out of there,
Yeah.
Oh, no, zombies, okay, let's leave, Shoosh.
Exactly. Anybody who has access to a time machine, so, Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah.
Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted. Yeah. Bill and Ted, get in.
Yeah.
You need to leave. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, anything like that. Anybody who has access to a time machine, you are on my zombie team.
Yeah.
Down with
We're leaving. Bye.
So, yeah, you know what? I feel like we need to do some research on non-fictional, a person from history who would actually be intelligent enough, badass enough.
Mm-hmm.
Could she or he wield weapons? I mean,
maybe.
I'm kind of thinking of samurais.
Or Prince Arthur? I don't know.
I don't think there's anybody. I have to bring up another one. Xander Cage could probably kind of take on zombies. But he's another one of those where it's
lone wolf. I'm grumpy because I'm lonely, but I'm badass.
Yeah.
And I'll sweep you off your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your favorite movie and why?
I don't know. This is a really hard question.
I know. Which genre? What,
Yeah, I feel if it was by genre, it'd be a little bit easier. I just saw the new Batman movie, and that was really well done. Is this a new favorite movie? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't watch movies frequently enough. I think I just mentioned several that I like, and they're old, I mean, the Old Guard and 5 Underground are newer.
Yeah. I mean, there's, like, comfort movies, too. Like, I really like Finding Nemo, but, like, it's not my favorite movie because it's well acted. It's because there's memories associated with it. You know, there's, like, those types of movies, but then there's other types of movies, like Romeo and Juliet. Like, that's a good movie because it's beautifully shot and beautifully directed. Like, it's good to watch, and it's really fun, but it's not my all-time favorite movie. But I would get a DVD disc of that, you know?
Yeah, I think that was 1996, the one
96.
with Baz Luhrmann's
like, that's
Shakespeare and
that's
Juliet.
like a beautiful movie.
It's so stylized, and
it's so good.
The similarities, rather than riding on steeds, they're in these like badass lowrider cars.
Yeah, their guns are called long swords, and it's like shot in Mexico, which is like kind of odd. It's like it goes with it, you know, and it's so like rich.
Yeah.
It's just like so well done. But it's like sometimes I don't want to watch that movie. You know?
I don't know if I have a favorite. For a long time it was Triple X. And I know that sounds really silly, but I love cheesy movies. And I mean, that is like as cheesy as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
But I love adventure, and it has a tight storyline to it, you know? It's got the good guys. It's got the guy that's going to take over the world and kill everybody.
Yeah, evil man.
It's got romance. It's got a good story that completely makes sense, and great actors.
Yeah, and action.
And action, and all the X game people in there. And the music. Are you kidding? Like, that is like a great soundtrack. Yeah, that was one of my favorites for a long time. But then again, you know, I've got others where they're older ones, you know, because I haven't watched a whole lot of newer films. And I mean, we're coming off of 2020 and 2021 where there wasn't a lot going on. Because production was shut down, and so were the theaters. So, you know, like nostalgic type stuff would be like Secondhand Lions. I love that film because that's what we would watch when you guys were kids. I think at this point I have more like favorite streaming series.
Yeah, I feel like I could name a lot of shows that are really good.
The Boys.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
The Good Place.
Yeah.
Upload.
How I Met Your Father is actually pretty good. I feel like we've gotten to a point. I don't know. Have you seen the ad for the show that Will Smith did?
Oh, The Fresh Prince of
Yeah, so they remade it, but have you seen the ad for it?
I have not. We were just talking about that this weekend. It's
very dark. Like they made it so dark. I hate that everybody's going that direction. So when How I Met Your Father came out, I was like, oh no. But like it's set exactly like How I Met Your Mother is, and it's got a laugh track in it, and it's like goofy and funny, and I'm like, not everything needs to be like so deep and edgy, you know? It's like we can have light things that have funny laugh tracks in them and stuff like that. And like that was really good.
I think The Good Place was very much like that.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been a very dark film, and I love all of the philosophical connections. And I mean, like I had said that right away, you know, because you're not expecting Keats to be quoted and all of these other philosophers, and you're just like going, whoa, who wrote this? And I was just listening to one of my favorite podcasters, Tim Ferriss, and he actually has this great, I'll link it in the show notes, he's got this great interview with Michael Schur, who is the writer and creator of The Good Place and a former Saturday Night Live writer, and he talks about the event that was the catalyst for The Good Place.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
You know, the ethical and philosophical dilemma that he came across. Yeah. Actually, Upload is a happier-ish.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's still the same, like, philosophical question
But it's not like super dark, although it is about a dark subject. Both of them are, both of them are
death.
about death.
Yeah.
But I think that what a lot of the networks are looking at and a lot of these reboots are looking at is, well, look at everybody loves The Boys.
Yeah, but it's like when you start making everything look like everything else, it's like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm tired of this edgy, like I would...
homogeneity.
Yeah. We need to swing the pendulum the other way, which hopefully it is, but, yeah.
It's like the edge is blunted.
Yeah. It's like, maybe I want a laugh track again, guys, Like, maybe that wasn't so bad. But, yeah.
That's true. When you are alone in the car, what volume is your radio at?
It's on high. I like vibing in my car. Yeah. It's high so I can yell.
So you can yell? You yell or you sing?
Well, I mean, I sing, but it's like...
At the top of your lungs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like to do that too, but I want to be on a single lane road where there's no traffic, so I don't have to worry about people watching me.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to worry about disturbing them, because a lot of times I'll get to a stoplight, and if I know I'm going to be waiting there for any amount of time, I do turn down the radio. And then when I take off, I turn it back on again.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think it's also fun when it's nighttime and your windows are down and the volume is up, but not too much where, like, you can't hear your own thoughts. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a good vibe.
The wind's blowing in your car and kind of like...
And you're, like, on a windy road all by yourself and you're, jamming.
That's the best. And it just depends on what's on the radio, too. If I'm listening to a podcast, it's not as loud as if I'm listening to some rock song. I like classical music, too, Enzo Bosso. I like Ludwinko Ignati, and that's all instrumental, but some of it, like Rain in Your Black Eyes by Enzo Bosso, requires very loud volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing with my car is that it only has a radio. I don't even have an aux cord, so I'm like flipping around a lot and I'll skip commercials, but I do have one CD and it's The Killers, Sam's Town.
Literally
the best CD.
One CD every time I'm in there.
It's if I
that's it.
I have like 7 or 8 saved channels. If every single one is on commercial, I will turn I'll just click the CD button and listen to the entire thing of Sam's Town. It's one of the best albums ever. I'm not gonna lie. Like, oh my God.
It's a great album.
It's so good.
I couldn't. I just
No,
couldn't.
it's such a good album.
I go through phases and I end up absorbing everything that I'm going to absorb out of a particular band album, and I never want to listen to it again. I think that's what it is. Like, I'm always listening for something new that I haven't listened to before, or that was not like a big part of my musical repertoire. I don't know. I just flip around a lot, and if I had just one CD in the car, I think at some point I would probably fling it out the window.
No, I think I bought that CD in like maybe early 2019, and it's literally been in the CD slot ever since. It's so good. I'm the type of person that puts songs on repeat, and like there's some stuff that I can just like never get enough of. Like, it's just like that feeling, like, the feeling of like listening to it for the first time, which is like, it reminds me of kind of like drugs, how like people are like, you can never get that same high. Like, Music
is my drug.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that where you're like, oh, like I remember listening to this for the first time and it made me happy then and it makes me happy now,
Yeah. I think I tried to do that a couple of times. Like, there's certain songs that are just rapturous. When I hear them, I'm like, oh, this is so wow. Yeah. I mean, like, the world just stopped and it was filled with this sound, this amazing sound. Not that it's necessarily always beautiful stuff, but just mind-blowing. And then I'll listen to it a few more times after that, trying to get that mind-blown high, that musical high, and it doesn't happen for me. So I think that's why I tend to move on so easily. And
like, you don't have an addictive personality.
I don't.
I feel like I do. I feel like the stuff that like I do sometimes I get really obsessed over, and then I can't focus on anything else.
And I think now that you said obsessed, I think there's a difference between addictive and obsessive. And I don't know. I just, I don't have to watch things over and over again. And it's not like I get bored. I don't get bored very easily. It's just that, I got everything I needed to get out of something or desired to get out of something. Mm-hmm. And I'm ready to go and see what else is out there. What's the new show? What's the new song?
Yeah.
Like, blow my mind. Let's go.
Yeah, there's certain stuff where I'm like that with, but I feel like music and like TV shows and movies, I really like the roots, I
have to be in the right mood. Like you and I like to watch Last Holiday.
That's such a good movie, though.
That is a really good
it's
movie.
It's so cute.
And I know that there's 2 versions out there. We like the one with Queen Latifah and LL Cool J in it.
It's so good.
That's our at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, girl movie that we'll just sit down and order takeout, do our nails too. Mm-hmm. Okay.
One more.
You can visit any fictional time and place. Where is it?
I feel like it'd be really cool to be that guy in that Walking with Dinosaurs show. But I don't want to die. Like, that would be really cool if I just had a shield or a bubble around me and I wouldn't get killed by dinosaurs. I know that film is like 20 years old. It was on a VHS tape, but
when you were a kid,
that would be cool. The show Merlin, like going back to King Arthur times, that would be cool. But again, I wouldn't want to be killed or really be a woman in that time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing with time travel, is that really, if I would do it, I would want to be a white man. Because I just, like, it's like, you would be probably the least preyed upon. Especially just being a woman, and a woman of color, it's not a good thing.
Well, also, it just depends on what you're thinking about, Like, again, we limit ourselves. I think that we need to be as unlimited in our thinking as we possibly can to get the greatest number of positive choices or possibilities. And I think that what happens when people say, where would you travel to in the past if you could? We think of these busy places. But what about places that were completely unknown? Just so many places in the world.
But I would like want to talk to them. Like, I feel like that's what would like limit me, is because I would want to talk to these people and be like, what's it like? Like, what is your life like? I would want to like follow someone around.
To Native Americans.
Because I couldn't. I mean, I guess that would be a different thing if I could actually speak to them, because they didn't know English.
So you would be limiting.
So that's a different thing, though.
What if getting into that time machine and going back to a specific place?
Yeah, if I could communicate with them,
to communicate with whoever it was in that specific place.
Yeah, then that would be a different.
And so
thing.
That might not be so bad. I mean, it would probably be much more. Like they were roughing it a little bit more. But, like literally I would not be wanting to go anywhere where the Aztecs were, because I'd be worrying about
they'd sacrifice me. Yeah. But yeah, going to like Tenochtitlan, like that would be spectacular to see.
I didn't know you spoke Aztec.
But like that is so cool. It was a lake. Entirely a lake. And they were able to fucking like get shit done. The reason why all of these Native American tribes are out in the desert, like in California and Arizona and New Mexico and stuff, is because the Colorado River used to run through there. And so where they're set up was riverbanks, but we have moved them so much that now it's just dry, broken desert. Isn't that crazy? But like how like it would be so cool to go back and be able to talk to the people and like see what they were doing, you know? Like, and just the canals, like that's just like it's insane to me that they were able to like build such a big civilization.
Yeah, but we need to get back because
like it was
the
just
question though was if you could go to
any time,
fictional time and place.
Fictional?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I said like Merlin Arthur. That's a movie or show.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of, like Limitless and Jumper. Any time where you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper just takes a pill, and by the end of the day, he's got his freaking novel written.
Yeah,
his whole house
if I could.
Clean, oh my God, like if I could do that, that's the time and place I would like to live in.
Yeah.
So that's one fictional place. Harry Potter's world would be kind of cool.
Or Doctor Who. Like,
Doctor
that would be cool
Who.
to be his companion, like, flying around,
Yeah.
Meet him.
That would be pretty cool. Oh, you know what? I would like to be on the Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah. I feel like any place where you could see multiple things or do multiple things.
Or just talk to a computer and go, I'm cold, and the computer knows exactly what temperature to
Oh
set
my
the
God.
room
Are
at.
there like food things where you can just like, I want a cheeseburger.
Or a holodeck.
Oh
where
my
you
God.
could do anything fictional.
Yeah, how cool. Like I would live in the holodeck.
Yes.
Like that would be
or
it for
you could get
me.
beamed anywhere.
Yeah. Like what? Why would I not? Why would I not?
There you go, Star Trek. I want to be on the Star Trek Enterprise.
And you could fight Klingons.
I don't want to fight the Klingons. I don't want, or Ferengis.
You could talk to Data.
Data. The whole Next Generation, that was, like, my favorite. Okay. You're about to hear a random conversation that somehow got in the mix. Did somebody say squirrel?
Did you know that bats are the only flying mammals?
Well, what about flying squirrels? Okay,
but they don't
flying
really
squirrels,
fly.
they don't really fly. You're right.
No, but because we learned about them, because they have this thing, it's called white nose syndrome.
Little known fact, that's a problem for humans too. What?
But like the reason why bats have so many diseases is because they expend so much energy flying. So they have to, they like kind of shut down their immune system because it's so much energy that it could practically kill them to fly. So they've adapted. So they have so many diseases because their immune system is so low, but they don't get sick from it. But white nose syndrome is essentially like if we had a sickness, like a cold, so then they get sick.
Yeah, remember when we went to Carlsbad Caverns and we went over to the bat observatory there? They were telling us about that, and there was something about our shoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like tracking thing. Yeah, to a certain place.
To a certain place, because that would spread that white nose syndrome.
Because I think it's a thing where it's like bats in Asia possibly have it, but they aren't affected by it. But our bats in America are affected by it. You know, there was like something like
the Mexican free-tail bat. Isn't that what we have here?
Yeah. What?
No. What are they called?
You would know. You're related, huh?
Yeah. What do you know about bats? Okay, let's see what else. If you could write a textbook, what would it be on?
I feel like it would either be on like animals or like the environment in general, or it'd be something fun like crochet. And there's like no in between.
Is that actually a class?
What, crochet class?
Crochet would be like home ec, which doesn't exist any longer.
Yeah, but how fun would it be to have like an entire class? You know how they have like drawing classes or like pottery classes or jewelry making class?
Crochet art. It would be part
well,
of the
maybe it
art
would be
department.
more like fashion, making clothes or making like textiles. I feel like it'd be more like a textile thing. But it would be exclusively focused on crochet. So, like, you would make clothes.
So it would be designed. So, there's
that's true.
fit 'em.
Yeah.
So that sounds like something
or like bags, hats, purses.
That you could do there. But I've also seen some amazing crochet art,
Yeah, you could do that too.
There was somebody in Mexico that was crocheting these gigantic panels with roses on them, like the embroidered
like the dresses.
But they were putting them on buildings and stuff. And it looked really kind of neat.
It could be like a yarn class, because you can also use it to like make you can make like rugs with it. Like it's like they have like handheld ones where you like make holes and stuff, and then like you put a little bit on that side and a little bit on this side, and then like you can make a design. But then they also have like these almost like they're like kind of like guns, and they can like do the same thing, but it's like machine done. Or it's called like punch hole or something.
I remember they used to sell kits when I was a kid, and it was a net, and they would be small pieces of yarn that you would put on the end of this hook. And you would push it through one of the holes in the net, and it would catch, and you'd pull up. There was a release.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
So your textbook would be on crocheting. If I wrote a textbook, I think it would be definitely on critical thinking, ethics,
that would be good.
Moral dilemmas. And I definitely make it like really interesting, stuff like really like The Good Place, because that was pretty funny. You just think about the stuff that kind of bothers you, or if we were being good, in quotations, if we were being thoughtful, if we were being actually there for another person, we wouldn't do certain things that would actually harming that person. So for example, say this is the ethical dilemma. You've got this pattern going where somebody does something nice for you, and they have all of these health problems that are related to obesity. And they're constantly complaining about their weight or their blood pressure, or how the doctor told them that they needed to, start exercising and lose a little bit of weight. But every time they do something nice for you, you get them chocolate, or you get them a baked good, or you buy them lunch. And the person really appreciates it, and it makes you kind of feel good because you gave them something in exchange for whatever it is that they did for you. But is that ethical?
Yeah.
Because you're contributing to
their
health
problems.
Even though it seems like something nice, And I think that we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about that. I think I lean towards writing something on critical thinking, because you see how much social media has taken away the need to think critically. So there's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of statements that are just made for argument's sake, and then the argument revolves around making a flimsy, unsubstantiated statement seem like it's correct, and then everybody else goes, oh, that's plausible. Yep, I'm going to get on that bandwagon.
Yeah, like groupthink.
I just think that it's really something that needs to be taught. Like, when this happens, you need to do some research, because this might not always be the case.
Or, like, informing people about how statistics and research is done would be a very good topic to talk about. Like, a good textbook topic. Because I think a lot of people don't understand how research is done and how scientists get to certain numbers. And then they're, like, spewing these facts that are, like, technically correct, but not in the way that they think they are. Where it's like, this is one study and you're acting like this is the entire world type thing.
You distill a whole entire situation down to a single study.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
I think that would be also a good, more that would be like a book, but
Or, a chapter. I think
like a chapter
in a textbook of critical thinking and understanding your subject matter when you're speaking on it. And I think it would help a lot with, things like, are you predicating your entire argument on this particular issue based on strong feelings or based on understanding the ability to listen to somebody else, like truly listen to learn and to understand versus listening to respond? Would be another great chapter in there. So I just think that there's a little bit more need for that, and that's what my textbook would be about.
We could co-write it.
We could co-write it. I think that would be so freaking awesome. The mother and daughter team of ethics and morality. What was your best class in school and why? Okay, I think we need to narrow this down. Let's go with...
Like high school?
High school.
Like that I got the best grades in or that I liked the most? Because the best grades was English. Because I'm pretty smart.
Don't hate me because I'm intelligent.
Other than vocab tests, which my teacher decided that she'd give us like 10 words one day and then 10 more, and we had to remember the first 10, the next 10, and then like it would continue till we had like 100 words and we had to remember all of them. Like, I'm not very good at that, but everything else, I'm pretty, like, I'm good at reading comprehension. I'm good at writing, like, whatever else you do in English class.
I'm too sexy for this class.
And English teachers liked me. Yeah.
Those would be your best classes.
Yeah. Also watching films was pretty fun. But I would say the class that I liked the most would be like biology.
Yes, I was just about to go. Science and psychology
I love science.
Classes. Those were the best classes because you did get to dissect stuff. You got to learn about interesting functions.
Yeah, like what I just told you about bats.
Yeah.
Like, bats are the only flying mammals. Like, who would have known? That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like sciences are very cool because they're, like, real worlds.
What about flying foxes? Do flying foxes actually fly? And are they actually
I don't think I've
bats?
ever actually heard of flying foxes.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh. Flying foxes.
Are they bats?
Well, that's what I'm just about to look that up because they're enormous. I've never seen one in person because they live in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, East Africa, and some oceanic islands in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. So clearly they are not a thing.
I see a picture.
And I think they're just like really, see that wingspan? I think they're just really
They do look like bats. Yeah. They look like bats. They're probably bats.
But you see the heads?
Yeah, they're kind of scary. They're very huge.
They're of the order Chiroptera. I don't know. I know that there's like biologists out there that perhaps are listening to, but I always call or Chiroptera. I think it might be Chiroptera because remember we adopted some bats in New Mexico and so we got a little certificate and we got a stuffed animal. A little plushie. And I named mine Cheery because it's of the order Chiroptera. So I guess they are bats, but they are perhaps the largest.
Probably the largest. Or one of the largest bats.
They are. They're enormous.
Yeah. But it's like stuff like that where it's like, that's like, it's so cool. It's like you get to know these things that like are applicable to life, and like cool. Which I probably other people feel like that about the thing that they really like, like math or something or chemistry. They're so big. Large flying fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought those were the best classes because you really got to do a lot of stuff. And then, there was a lot of hands-on.
Yeah.
You really felt like a scientist in them.
Yeah.
There were so many interesting things. But I think after that, it would be English because I've just always been a good writer and I'm very smart too. English or my language arts classes were right up there with science, and then really math right after that because I did enjoy math also.
Yeah, I'm not bad at math, but I don't know if I enjoy math classes. Okay, with math, I like doing it in a group. I feel like math is one of those things that is a group activity. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I like doing math with another person. Kind of like chemistry too. I feel like chemistry is one of those things where I feel like it's a group activity, which is kind of fun in some senses, but sometimes it's very annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Groups can go, especially in school, in classes, when you're assigned to groups, they can go either way, especially if there's somebody in the group that is just not pulling their weight. That's it. That's enough strain to really make it unpleasant.
Yeah, that happened a lot in English because most of the time when you're in a group with people, nobody wants to claim to be the leader. So most of the time I would do it because no one else would do it. But then I would be responsible for 3 other people doing their work. And it's I swear if we get an F on this,
We had, and now we're going outside of high school, but when I was in college, I would spend the first week of class just kind of listening to questions that were being asked. Who was asking them, the caliber of the question, how intelligent these people seemed. And then I would choose those people to be part of my study group. So I mostly got really hardworking people, and we were acing exams because we kind of split up the research that needed to be done. It was you're going to research this, and you're going to research this, and you're going to research this, and then we'll come back and we'll study each other's notes because we're going to get the nitty gritty. And of course, we read the textbooks and all of that too, but that was really important and probably the linchpin in getting us these above average grades in all of these classes. And there was one time where we'd already had the group for at least 2 tests. And the teacher was wow, you guys are doing so great. And, we did work really hard on them, but it was that team effort that really pushed us over the top. So this one girl came over and was like, hey, can I join you guys? And there was kind of a little bit of, I don't know, we've already got 2 tests behind us. We're a really good team. And
you might mess up the dynamic.
Yeah, you just never know. But, she negotiated well enough, and so we let her join. And she literally did not provide any notes. She was assigned some research, and she's like, yep, I'm on it. I'll take care of it. Didn't do that part of the research. The rest of us had to scramble to get that. She took our notes. And she got the highest grade in that class that she had ever gotten. And every single one of us were so pissed. We just glared at her, and she was coming over trying to explain I don't even know why she even thought that there was anything to explain. And we're you're out, that's it,
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit bad, especially with philosophy class, so is it okay to, kick this girl out because she didn't pull her weight the first time? But it was just that kind of if you're going to succeed, you got to be willing to do the work, and you got to be better than just average. And I was really surprised. We'd get into conversations about class, and I was always I want the best grade in the class. And I remember this one girl goes, I just want to get C's. I don't care. I just want to get through here with a C average. And I'm like, what? Why are you even here?
Yeah, it's really odd when you like find that person that's just like content with being just okay, and you're like, what? Why? Like, why?
I know that there's been like this big push, like if the best that you can do is a C, and I get it. That is true.
But you should try. Like, you should be trying to get a good, like, what is it? Reach for the moon and land among the stars or something. It's like, your goal should be an A. But if the best that you can do is a C, then that's okay. But you should be trying to get that A.
Right. Like you said, you have to put the effort in rather than going, I'm okay with mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, life is so dang short. There's just not enough of it to settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
And if you tend to settle in a lot of places, you're letting other people tell you how to live rather than living your best life. You're just not going to. Okay. What's the best book you've ever read and why?
I would say a book called A Tale for the Time Being. It's a book that I got when we were in a book club. We exchanged books during the holidays, and it was one of the books that I got. It's kind of two stories. It's about a girl who is in Japan, and this woman finds her belongings because of the 2012 tsunami earthquake thing that happened. So, like, this lady lives on, like, an island somewhere, and essentially, like, all this stuff washes up onto her beach, and she finds this, like, young teenage girl's diary and is able to, like, go through it, and it's kind of the story. It's, like, a dual story of both of them. So each chapter, it's, like, either or. The woman tries to find out who this girl is, and it's just kind of the story, like, a parallel story of both of them. With, like, very different lives. Yeah.
So she finds the diary.
It's like...
Are they kind of going through the same sort of thing, but from different perspectives?
I wouldn't say so. I don't know. It's more like the woman is trying to, like, figure out this girl and figure out, like, her story. And, like, she tries to find out who she is and, like, what happens to her. I mean, they kind of are, like, connected, I guess, like, spiritually. There's, like, some, like, spiritual elements in it, like, later on in the book. But
I think I remember when you got that book, because it's the book club that both of us are in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Smart, sassy, and always smart-assy book club. I remember you telling me that you really liked that book. Do you remember when I was working and somebody cleaned out a drawer that had stuff that had been in there for years? And most of it was tossable, but there was a journal in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I pulled it out, and I didn't have time to really, like, go through it. And my intention had been to figure out whose it was so that I could get it back to them, because journals are very personal and important to the person who wrote it. So I brought it home, and I started reading it, looking for the name. There was no name anywhere, nothing to identify who this belonged to. And it was a man's. He worked, I don't want to mention what it is because I'm pretty sure I know what organization he probably worked for. And it was probably the most interesting book that I have ever read in my life. And it was like having a piece of somebody's mind in front of me, and being a scientist studying, like sociologist / psychologist, studying what this man was talking about, and just seeing the world from this male perspective that was just very open and genuine and insightful. I wish I could get the journal back to him. And apparently he had a whole, like, 2 pages on his favorite pen and why he chose this pen and all of the other pens that he had chosen prior to that, and the various mechanisms that allowed these pens to function the way they did, and what the weak points were, why he decided not to choose those pens, and why he decided to choose the pen that made it to the top. And then he had quite a few pages and several passages throughout about organizing. He was very keen on organizing his life. He had a journal for everything. Like he had his one journal for each one of the projects that he worked on. He had a journal for tracking things that I would kind of consider mundane. He, of course, had one for tracking his diet and his exercise and his weight. And he had another one for tracking his health. And apparently he had so many journals, was talking about having this huge organization system that was going to require him to clean out his garage and put in bookshelves so that he could put all these journals in a nice organized manner and be organized within the journals themselves and be organized in the type of journals that he used and be organized in the type of writing implements that he used. And he was just going to completely organize his life. But it just seemed like the more he tried to organize, the more he tried to control, the more out of control everything seemed, because of course the world is constantly in flux, right? Things are constantly changing, and that wrecks your ability to keep this organizational quality about your life. And that was really difficult for him. So I'm going to have to read that book, because at first I felt bad that I was reading this journal, because that is not a good thing to do ever to people. You know, I literally have never read anybody else's journal, but there was nothing to identify this person at all. Reading it was kind of going into this investigative detective type of mode.
Which is like exactly what, like the older woman finds this journal and she's like, well, I need to figure out who this girl is and how I can get it back to her. But then she ends up like reading it, you know?
Yeah. See, that made me feel a little bit better about it. I still have it, and I wish I knew who this person was, and I don't want to put any more information out there than that, because I don't want to breach his his privacy. Thank you. I don't want to breach his privacy. Do you have any other books?
I mean, I haven't read a lot in the past few years, so most of my stuff would be like YA. Hunger Games, honestly, is a very good book. The first one. I'll say like Maximum Ride was also really good. Also YA, but that entire series is good. Anything else? Holes was good. Fight Club's good. There's a book called 101 Cupboards, which was my favorite book when I was younger. It's like, I think they move into a place, in like a weird place, and they find like in the attic, there's 101 cupboards on this one wall, and they essentially go to different places, and it's kind of like a fun like fantasy book.
Like they're portals?
Yeah, they're like little portals. Yeah, like one's like a little mailbox, and like sometimes they get letters through it, or like they walk through like a forest and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Maximum Ride, of course that was going to be fabulous. It was written by James Patterson, who is a genius writer. They did start to make a film series of it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I didn't watch it, though. I'm a little scared to watch it, honestly, because
it always gets ruined.
I don't want to be that person, but it's like the books are so much better than the movies. You know, most of them will be. Well,
I don't think you're that person. I think it's true of anybody, because the book allows your imagination to fill in a lot of blanks, and it provides more detail, but in a more nebulous way, so that the character that you see is your character, who you would like or who you would dislike, or the scenery that you see, you attach your memories to it, those great places that you've been to, or those, you attach your emotions to it too. So there's a more intimate quality to reading a book than there is a film, because what's in a book does not transfer exactly to film.
Yes.
And somebody else will have to fill in those blanks, what the character actually looks like, what the scenery actually looks like, what the mood actually is, their interpretation of that. And so now they've taken away your ability to interpret those qualities. And because an entire novel is often crammed into 2 hours or 2.5 hours, there's a lot that's missing. So they'll do stuff like in The Perfect Storm, which is a great book by Sebastian Junger, who is an excellent journalistic, stylized writer, because he was a journalist for a long time before he became an author. But his books are succinct, clear, very matter of fact, strongly journalistic, and just amazing to read. All of the detail that he puts in there. And they're not super emotionally laden. They're just very crisp and clean. The Perfect Storm is one of those books. But in the film, they took things that were in several chapters and stuck them in one single scene. So somebody I don't remember exactly what the whole thing was, because it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, and it's been a long time since I read the book. But like, somebody's boat sank, somebody got caught on like netting or something and dragged into the water, somebody had a hook go through their eye, and then there was like something else. And all of that happened in one single scene, and you're like going, what is this? The fucking Keystone Fisherman? I mean, it just didn't have the quality that the book could. And, in many regards, I don't blame the filmmakers, because they can't make as good of a film as the book was. But at the same time, don't do stuff like that, because especially like avid readers are already done with the film when stuff like that happens, And then, like I was saying, when you fill in the various qualities and details, you know who your character is. And like the first 3 books of Stephen King's The Dark Tower series are excellent. They're such great fantasy writing and thinking, and just these rich, diverse characters that he fleshed out so well and created this amazing storyline, these amazing worlds that the characters live in, and you really care about them, and they're magnetic and dynamic. But just about everybody's mind who read that series, Roland, who is the main character in that series, was a white man who, in many regards, even from the beginning, I felt kind of looked a bit like Stephen King. Although he didn't say that, as each book from that series came out, I think I got the last one, and it had renditions. And it was literally Stephen King in gunfighter attire. And I'm like, I knew it. The last one is terrible. I think he, like each one got a little bit worse, because it's hard to
keep going once if you don't plot it out well enough.
I think he plotted it out well. It was just a really big story, and I think stories often have a natural ending to them.
Yes.
And he went past that natural ending, and he's an experimental writer too, even though he's got a formula. So many of his books follow that basic formula, and you know what's going to happen. But he also was challenging himself to create this huge compendium, the series that was just going to go on for as long as he could get it to go on. And, it kind of fell apart in that last one. I just don't think that it had the energy to be carried on. But anyway, that's who everybody had in their mind. And then Idris Elba is Roland, the gunfighter. He's an amazing actor. I love him. But that was a real difficult transition for a lot of people to get on board with. I think that it was just a big expectation from fans to make that kind of transition. I don't think that it had anything to do with race. It's just that a particular character's characteristics were presented in the book, and then you go to see the film and there's somebody else there. And we like to think that we can adapt really easily to things like that, but I think that there was some struggle there simply because the expectation and the reality were different. And you know what they say, happiness is reality minus your expectations. So I haven't seen the film, but I am looking forward to watching it. The other thing is that I think there's like 8 or 9 books in that series. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many they put into that film. And Stephen King stories tend to be really bad films for the most part.
I've noticed that. Other than like The Shining. I mean, I have never really read his books, but I feel like all the films that I've seen are always like a little like missing something. There's like, they're almost like too unbelievable. Like they're missing like a piece, and I don't know what it is, but he's so successful that I'm like, the book must not read like this, you know?
Yeah, the books don't read like like Christine or Firestarter, or, they did The Stand for TV. That was terrible. I think they did Salem's Lot. But I do have to say that there are some really great Stephen King successful adaptations. Stand By Me is amazing.
Yes.
The Green Mile is amazing. The Shawshank Redemption. I was going to say Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. That was a short story. And then you get something like The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Conchita Alonso, which they were trying to infuse a lot of humor into it because it was that kind of circus atmosphere anyway, that reality show craziness, but it didn't translate well. Everybody keeps trying to make these films from his books because his books are just so amazing, but they don't always translate well.
A book that I read that I also watched the movie of that was pretty good was The Martian.
Yes, we both read that because that was a book club book, right?
Yes.
So we both read that. You're right.
Yeah, I remember being pretty satisfied with the movie because the movie was pretty accurate to what happened in the book, and it wasn't like they tried to shove things in, and I feel like the pacing was done very well in the movie and in the book too. The book was very well researched and very well written.
There was a realistic quality to that fiction.
Even though it is fictional, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like that. Was a really good adaptation. What other books do I have? Outliers. I am constantly quoting out of Outliers. That's Malcolm Gladwell. Excellent book about the factors that make people successful that are really outside of their control. They have to do with either the time period that they're born, the hockey players that were born at the beginning of the year and end up getting like an extra year of practice because they're too young to be in a league. Yeah. So when they're accepted into the league, they're already bigger and faster and stronger than the younger kids. And so they somehow end up being like these superstars. And when you take a look at National Hockey League players, the majority of them have birthdays within that first quarter of the year. And then, like the Rockefellers and the DuPonts and all of these very wealthy families coming from when the industrial era was beginning, and the opportunities were there for them to make all of this money.
Jobs too. Like it's kind of like right place, right time. He also had the right amount of money. He was in California. He had access to things that helped him. Like a lot about like your life is made up before you were born. Like, a lot of it is based on the
circumstances.
Look of the draw. Yeah. Because if you weren't born in the same place that you are now, you really would be a different person. If you had different parents, you know, if you were born in a different time period, everything could change. You could be one of the most famous people, just depending on where you were born, who you're born to, and what location geographically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he's got other formulas in there, like the 10,000 hours. If you want to be an expert in something, you have to put 10,000 hours into that particular task before you can really be an expert at it.
Yeah.
And so there's some tried and true formulas in there, some really good science in there. I love that book. I would highly recommend it. The other one, who is similar to Sebastian Junger, is Frank McCourt, who is no longer with us. He wrote Angela's Ashes and he wrote Tis. And Angela's Ashes is probably one of my all-time favorite books. And there's this very matter-of-fact, this is what happened in Ireland. We were poor. We were a big family. My father was an alcoholic. My mother couldn't take care of us. We didn't have wood to burn, so we tore up the staircase and took the pieces of wood and threw those in the fire. Just a really good read. Historical, accurate, autobiographical, just excellent. And it's really hard, I think, to take a hard, harsh subject matter like that and put it into words and a perspective that does not leave the reader an emotional mess or wanting more clarification because the writer got so emotional that a lot gets lost in the descriptive qualities versus the solid facts of the story. So Frank McCourt and Sebastian Junger are both excellent writers in that regard. And then I would say, I'm just going to do one more, maybe unless something that you say triggers another book, but I would say The Wind in the Willows. I don't care how old you are. That is an excellent book by Kenneth Grahame. And I love the story of the rat and the mole. I love that gentle, idyllic quality. They're rowing on the water. The mole is doing spring cleaning and the river rat goes down to help him. And they meet Mr. Frog or, the Toad, because I think that's like the Disneyland ride, isn't it? Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Yeah. Mr. Toad steals a carriage and in the story actually does go on this wild ride. And, that's another thing. I think it's kind of nice to have a connection. So many people go to Disneyland. It is not the happiest place on earth. It's like very stressful to me. It's too crowded. But I do have fun on the roller coasters and the rides. But Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is based on the Toad from The Wind and the Willows. And it's nice to have that historical background because it connects you a little bit more with the experience. Yeah, it's just beautifully written. And I think that might have been the only book that he wrote, or maybe the only children's book. He wrote it for his kids. Mm-hmm. Kenneth Grahame had a pretty tough life. And for, him and Robert Stevenson, both of them were very sickly. Robert Stevenson wrote, not Treasure Planet. What is the... Treasure Planet is based on the book that he wrote. Treasure Island. I think he also wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm going to have to check that. But these were two incredibly sickly people that had tough childhoods growing up, and they created these amazing stories. So, The Wind in the Willows is a very special book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good book.
Any other books?
I don't think so.
And also, I need to correct. Earlier, we said that the name of one of the films is 5 Underground. It is actually 6 Underground. I don't know who we killed off. We killed somebody off, one of the members. But yeah, it was 6 Underground. All right. I think we're done with our questions for this episode of Lists with Sophie. We will see you next time.
Bye.
I hope that you enjoyed that episode and take some time to dive deeper into some of these questions yourself, as well as check out some of the films that I've put in the show notes that you might not have seen. Please send me your responses to these questions. I want to know who your zombie fighting team or partner would be, fictional places in time that you'd like to visit, and the textbook that you would write. Please keep your questions and suggestions coming. If you enjoyed this episode, it just takes a second to rate it, and it'll help move it up closer to the top of the searches so that my friends and I can reach more people. There's much more to come, including many more in the Company of Friends talks. Be sure to follow me on the socials and on the .com, where I post updates, upcoming topics, recipes, and lots more. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the .com at The Queen Trail Podcast. That's TheQuintrelle podcast. Don't forget to stay tuned for the bloopers at the end. I am Sil Annan, the Queen Trail, and until next time, I wish you the best zombie fighting partners, passion, courage, grace, elegance, and beauty.
Are we done? My butt hurts.
Closer to what you want, because there's so many.
I'm sorry. My butt is literally...
Yeah, but you just totally made noise over my response.
Where you're going and how long... She rabbit.
Echo is killing a pickle, a catnip pickle, and has decided that she just wants to murder it, and so she is the zombie kitty at the moment.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yes, I think so.
You didn't lose your eyeball?
I almost did. Oh my god. I might have a black eye tomorrow. God, what was I saying?
Bro, I'm trying to speak. Hey! Throw something at her.
She knows. She's gonna throw something at me.
It's because I do that sometimes with my shoes.
With your shoes?
Well, I don't hit her.
Throw a paper towel, wadded up paper towel.
Well, sometimes I'll throw a sock at her and she'll just look at me like, "Oh, you really thought that was gonna make me move?" Like.
The church bells are going.
But it's 11:23. It's very odd.
Probably because of the time change. I feel like it's some weird random time and they're going off, but they're pretty.